All right, so here we go, live on YouTube. And welcome everybody. Make sure that we're live streaming this time. Man, this thing it threw me for a loop today because it did not live stream or record something to Karen today. So I felt really badly about that. But I understand, I'm not in control of the universe. So all right. So did we finish Can God Be Reached Directly last week? Do y'all remember if we finished that? I'll put it in the room and we can look. We can all look together. Yeah, we were talking about having the union with God. I remember Nicole talking about that quite a bit. And he needs helpers that are in bondage and still asleep. That would be me. So yeah. So did we finish it though? Do you guys remember? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Lynn, how many people, did anybody else in here go to the webinar today?
Yeah, there were a few people. I know Oddsy was in there. I only saw the people that were writing in the chat.
I was there. I just thought it was great. I thought they were absolutely wonderful.
It was adorable, wasn't it? That Tam.
I've never seen Cindy Renard. She's so adorable.
Oh, isn't she cute? Yes. Yeah,
and I just loved her sister, and then Dove and Scott just blows me away. He's just
Scott's amazing. And the thing about Cindy, I noticed the last few times I've seen her, she talks like Gary. She talks with that same cadence and that same expression, just like Gary. It's hilarious. So
yeah, because we're not people, so she lives with them, so she's picking up that vibration.
Yeah, they're like each other. It's really beautiful. So
yeah, it really, and she's adorable. I mean, I just loved her warmth. Wasn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
If anybody wants it, they're going to send me a recording. It was very good.
Yeah. So yeah, she's a real cutie pie. They're both real cuties. So all of them, Tam, adorable. They're all just adorable people. So and Scott, of course, and Dove was, Dove. So so I'm going to go check in the oven. And would somebody like to read paragraph 4? And if I'm not back, start talking about it. There's Oddsy. Hi, sweetheart.
Hello.
I skipped out a minute early because I had to get this thing going. But yeah, what a great program that was. Hey, Myrna. All right. So
I'll read, Lynn.
All right, and I'll be right back.
Okay, great. Let me just make it a little bigger if I can here. Okay. Hi, how are you, Myrna?
Good.
Okay, do not despair then because of limitations. It is your function to escape from them, but not to be without them. If you would be heard by those who suffer, you must speak their language. If you would be a savior, you must understand what needs to be escaped. Salvation is not theoretical. Behold the problem, ask for the answer, and then accept it when it comes. Nor will its coming be long delayed. All the help you can accept will be provided, and not one need you have will not be met. Let us not then be too concerned with goals for which you are not ready. God takes you where you are and welcomes you. What more could you desire when this is all you need? I guess basically he's telling us here, do not despair then because of limitations, our ideas that we still hold about the illusion. It is your function to escape them, but not be without them. So we basically, the only way we do escape from them is aligning our mind with the higher self, with the Holy Spirit. But our function right now is to recognize them so that we can be here and it says, if you would be a savior, to help our brothers and help them understand what needs to be escaped. So we're receiving from the higher mind, from the Holy Spirit, but still recognizing the dream and recognizing that the entire sea of chaos is actually based upon our chaotic ego thoughts. So we escape them by listening to the Holy Spirit, but yet we still understand because we're still in the dream. Behold the problem, ask for the answer. There we go. Ask from Spirit and then accept it when it comes. And that's a big thing, the willingness to accept it. Nor will its coming be long delayed, because if you ask, it's already done. It just is waiting on welcome. The miracle waits on welcome. All the help you can accept will be provided, and not one need you have will not be met. So when we totally rely on Spirit, trust, moving into that space of accepting ourselves as the Spirit of God, then all needs will be met. Let us not then be too concerned with goals for which you are not ready. God takes you where you are and welcomes you. What more could you desire when this is what you need? So we rest in God, do what we're asked to do here in the dream, which is recognize our mistake. Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. And then, as it's saying, be willing to accept the inspiration that comes and actually do it. Follow the inspiration. Because a lot of times we do know that, we'll move from the ego mind to the right mind. And we do know, but we're reluctant to do it because either we want to be right or we still are perpetuating fear and some manifestation of specialness. So, anybody else? No.
I would like to just go over in the beginning, it says, it is your function to escape from them, but not to be without them. And I'm confused as to what actually that means. I
Your
mean,
function,
what?
Your function to escape from them being the self-imposed limiting ideas, the illusions.
Right, but not to be without them.
Right.
Because if we're still in the dream, then we're recognizing what our brother sees so we can be truly helpful. If we already accept complete forgiveness, we've moved out of that realm and we're just totally aligned with the Christ. So then there's no more projection of our own. And it's all about us anyway. Our brother is our projection.
Right. Thank you.
And remember in the last paragraph, what I was just reading, he said he needs people who are still living in the dream to help break everybody else out. So, and they need helpers who are still in bondage and still asleep. That's us. So that by their awakening can God's voice be heard. So we're going to have the limitations of the illusion until we awake from the dream. So it's not our function to escape from them. It's our function to escape from them, but not to be without them, because if you are not experiencing the limitations of the world, then you don't have empathy, I mean, you can't, it's like, there are folks who think they have escaped from the world, and then they teach and confuse people. And unless you truly understand where a person is, you won't be able to speak to them and have them understand you. It's like you're speaking two different languages. So, we still have the body, we still have the aches and pains, we still have the sicknesses, we still have all these things because we're a part of this world. Nicole, did you have something to add? I know you do.
Yeah, just in regards to that sentence at the top, I came in late. I'm actually blown away because I've been sitting outside on the veranda. I just woke up, I slept in this morning, and I've been seeing about opposing belief systems, right? Where you have contradiction, right? And been seeing how where Jesus talks about the split mind, right? I've seen like where you hold two positions that seem in opposite, right? What happens is because of the power of our will, because of who we are as the Holy Son of God, there is effects to our beliefs, right? There's effect. And when we have these positions we hold, these rules for ourselves, they're like idols, right? They have a quite powerful effect. And so what happens is we can feel like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? But what it is it's just that we're holding fast, trying to hold fast to two beliefs, two idols that seem in it to counter opposition, right? Okay. And what I was seeing is what the solution to that is atonement. And what happens is the ego tries to keep them apart from each other so that we're not looking at both at the same time. It's kept in opposition. And if you think of the idea of force and stuff, imagine two magnets, right? Repelling each other. And here we are in the middle of it, right? Okay. And it can create a bit of a pattern, a cycle where we switch between one. You know, when you're thinking about things and you're going on one hand, but then on the other hand, right? And where it says here, it is your function to escape from them, but not to be without them, right? In this dream of opposites, in this dream of duality, okay, we're going to encounter this stuff. We're going to encounter this stuff because this is the world beliefs. All right. So, and this process of atonement, it's not to be without them. It's not to get rid of one or get rid of the other. It's about bringing it together. It's not to be without them. It's to see, it's to free our minds. It's to free our minds from our self-imposed limitations, our self-imposed feeling stuck, right? Right. It's another way of looking at them, you know. And anyway, I just think that it is your function to escape from them, but not to be without them, because is reminds me of the need to bring those seeming opposing belief systems together on the holy altar of the atonement, right? Not keep flipping between one and the other, which is what I've seen happens with me around certain beliefs. It's about bringing them together. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Nicole. And yes, that's exactly right. And if, like I was trying to say a little earlier, if we didn't have the resistance, we wouldn't have anything to overcome, or we would think that we didn't, and we would just not move. We would just we would just be stagnant. So this is us bringing the forces together. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. If we don't recognize ourselves in the realm of perception, then we really can't spread the news of the light, because you're out of that state of being. You've risen in consciousness to a point where those projections cease to be. And he tells us at the end, what am I? We're the holy messengers of God we bring glad tidings to the Son of God who thought he suffered. And that's the idea, that we wouldn't be able to bring glad tidings to the perceptual realm if we weren't in the perceptual realm. So that's what I was thinking.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. I mean, we have to be on the same perceptual level as the people that we're working with. And I mean, it's great if you have somebody who's at a, you know, some other level who's coming around, I guess. But even Jesus walked the earth. He had tribulations. He was involved with people. He, you know, ate, and, you know, he did all the things that we do. And yet he was connected to his own divine being. He wouldn't have been able to talk to those people if he had been not in that state of being. And, you know, that's, I mean, he was a good example for us. So, and that's just, you know, just be happy where you are, and don't aspire to be anything beyond what you are, because otherwise you'll never be able to grow into something else. You'll be thinking, oh, I should be already a tree, when you're a seed in the ground. And you know, you'll never be a tree if you jump up out of the ground and say, I belong up here. You'll die. So, I mean, that's not a very good example, I guess, but kind of, you know, that's, you know, going beyond where we are. So those are my thoughts anyway. Karen, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah, this paragraph is reminding me of kind of a lot of things, but one thing that comes to my mind is the section that Regis read today, where he said, where it says where the ego speaks first, but the Holy Spirit always answers, you know, and the Holy Spirit would never answer in fear ever. You know, he always answers, and it's never bringing fear to us. It's always peaceful. It's always gentle, loving, and kind. So when he says that if you would be heard by those who suffer, you must speak their language. If you would be a savior, you must understand what needs to be escaped. And what needs to be escaped is the guilt, you know, the guilt that we have that keeps us, that blocks love's presence. That needs to be escaped. And when that's escaped by being that channel of love, doing the most loving thing, being gentle, loving, and kind, not judging our brother. He tells us I love this section in the Healing as a Release from Fear in chapter 2. He tells us that it's kind of relating to what Nicole said about the atonement, accepting the atonement. He says, the value of the atonement does not lie in the manner in which it is expressed. In fact, if it is used truly, it will inevitably be expressed in whatever way is most helpful to the receiver. This means that a miracle, to attain its full efficacy, must be expressed in a language that the recipient can understand without fear. So it's always that. It's always in a language that we can understand without fear, meeting each other where we are, you know, and knowing that we all go through our different things, you know, and, you know, to help each other, to just basically walk each other home without fear, with love and gratitude. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's very clear, Karen. I appreciate that. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Karen. That was perfect. What was coming out here was about theoretical. Salvation is not theoretical. So I looked up the word. Concerned with or involving the theory of a subject or area of study rather than its practical application, or based on or calculated through theory rather than experience or practice. So he's asking us not just to think about this and rationalize it, but actually to put it into practice in our lives, to live it, to live the course. Thanks.
That's, yeah, exactly right. So that, yeah, that's beautiful. And really, I mean, that's how it works. Does anybody else have any comments on this section? So, well, let's move on. And I'm going to ask again for somebody to read. We're on number 27. What is death? All right, this is great. If someone would like to read this, and I've got to go once again to check my oven, and just chat away amongst yourselves. I'll be back in a minute.
Death is the central dream from which all illusions stem. It is not madness to think of life as being born, aging, losing vitality. And is it not madness to think of life as being born, aging, losing vitality, and dying in the end? We have asked this question before, but now we need to consider it more carefully. Is it the one fixed, unchangeable belief of the world that all things in it are born only to die? This is regarded as the way of nature, not to be raised to question, but to be accepted as the natural law of life. The cynical, the changing and unsure, the cyclical, and the changing and unsure, the undependable and the unsteady, waxing and waning in a certain way upon a certain path. All this is taken as the will of God, and no one asks if a benign creator could will this. Well, fact of the matter is, we were never born. We don't exist the way we seem, and we can't die. That's the actual truth. The rest of this stuff is you think you're a body, and body has a lifespan, and that's imagination.
Thanks, Rafi, for reading. I'm going to jump in just for 1 second. The idea that you're born, live, and die is the whole idea of time. Of course, time is the vast illusion. So death can only happen in a span where there's a script. You're born, you live, you die. And those people know Rev Wayne Stills, who teaches Thursdays and Fridays here at Gather. He used to do a famous thing. He says, I was born, I live, I die. I come back, I'm born, I live, I die. So it happens in the idea of time. So all dreams take place in time. There's a beginning of the dream, and then there's the awakening from the dream. And the Course also says time and space are just opposite sides of the same illusionary coin. So the same illusion of time is also the other side of the coin is space. So time and space is what requires to make a dream look like it appears true. There's space between me and you and us and them and those people out there, and that's the space. And time is the idea that you're born, you live, you die.
Myrna has her hand up.
Yes, I'm just looking at this. I like the last sentence, and no one asks if a benign creator could will this. And that's the whole answer. Unless we connect with God and get to know God, then we're going to be transfixed in the belief that life is, that life is cyclical, that we were born, we live, we die. I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago, 25. No, I started the Course in Miracles 33 years ago. So before that, I'm not the same person I was then when I didn't know God. I would have never have understood any of this. But now we do understand it because we are connected. We know that we are connected to a powerful creation that includes us. So I think that's a very important line right there. That's all.
Yeah. Actually, adding on to what you said, Myrna, there's a line in the Course that says, "No one ever asked, would a benign father want this for his son?" So we assume that God wants us to die. So, I mean, the world was made as an attack on God. That's why the world of the ego came into being, to deny the love of God, But there's that one-liner. He says, and no one ever asked, would a benign, kind father want this for his son?
Gloria?
I was just going to say that, the first sentence, death, is the central dream from which all illusions stem. And Jesus tells us that we've chosen sickness and death ourselves, which is actually the choice to be separate from God. So what Mona pointed out at the end, and no one asked us if a benign creator could will this. So it's our will. And all of this is our will and has nothing to do with God at all.
This is really wild. And I'm thinking here too about content and form, because form is a perfect example of the cyclical, the changing and unsure, the undependable and the unsteady waxing and waning in a certain way upon a certain path. And wow, well, this is taken as the will of God, and no one asked if a benign creator could will this. And I think about the idea of the script as written, interpretations of that. Sometimes our interpretations of that are taken to see that these shifting forms are the will of God. Whereas I see it as more like, let me remember that all problems have been solved, that the script that has been written is the inevitability that all will accept the atonement, or is our inheritance, what is the reality, the truth. The script is written that every era will like these cyclical, changing and unsure things disappear back into the mist of each wave of the ocean will recognize its oneness again with the ocean, will disappear back into the ocean, right? But not the actual particulars of is this, and no one asked if a benign creator could will this, like we are doing this. This is what we're doing and how we're perceiving it, how we are seeing it and perceiving it, seeing things and all these different things. And I think sometimes we project that onto God because we experience and we see like this beautiful tapestry and grand orchestration and holy harmony. But is that because God is there going, ooh, 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 like, or is it just some natural divine intelligence? Because what is real cannot be threatened and nothing unreal exists. So when we withdraw our allegiance and our fixation on things that are not, they'll just, we withdraw we're the ones that hold these things in place. It's us that does, with our inheritance, with what is holy and what is eternal. Anyway.
One of the things that we learn right away when you start to take the course of the Sedona method of release technique is that all feelings go back to the fear of dying. You think you're this body and you think it's going to die. And if you can get a hold and release all of those feelings, that's wanting to survive feeling that you're separate from the divine presence, and that feeling that you're going to die, all of those wanting to survive, you can let go of all of them, and really all of them. Then your mind gets really quiet and you start to see the infinite beingness, the infinite presence that you really are. And I thought, well, okay, so that's the gift. The gift is you can think you're this body, but as long as you have all of those feelings, and the gift is you can get in touch with them and let them go, and get your mind really, really, really quiet to the point where you transition. That's what we're here for. And so I was very grateful for that, because when Miriam passed a couple of weeks ago, that was all brought back to me again. And the mind kept telling my ego mind kept telling me, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. And I kept saying, thank you for sharing and bringing up the fear of dying and that wanting to survive it. Just keep letting it go and letting it go and letting it go. And the thing that Robert, Yogananda was, you make us realize our oneness with thee. I started wishing that for all of those who have so-called gone before me, including Miriam, parents, my son, everybody. And it got me into a really a peaceful, very, very peaceful state after a while when I was able to let go of all of that, wanting to survive, those wanting to survive feelings.
Wow, thank you so much, Rafi. Wow, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sharing. Oh my goodness. Karen, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Rafi. That was so beautiful. And I too can relate to what you shared because I feel like the course is really preparing me to deal with death in a less fearful way, because I really had a lot of fear around death, especially when my husband died, by suicide. I really didn't take it well. But I also love what Gloria shared. Well, before I go to that, I want to also focus on what Rafi said about fear, the fear of death. And it kind of ties into what Dove said about time, because the ego's linear time is sin, guilt, and fear. The sin is the past, the guilt is the present, and the fear is the future. And it's that future fear of death. That's the ultimate punishment. And the crucifixion was Jesus's symbol to us that there is no death, that life is eternal. That is the ultimate symbol to show us that there is no death. The death is not of the body. And what Gloria shared, it is a thought. Death is a thought that we could be separate from God, and we are not separate. And Jesus showed us that in the crucifixion. But I am very grateful for what Rafi shared, because I am really feeling like this course has really helped me so much with death and with accepting death and not being fearful of death, because I know the truth that the body never dies. So thank you so much. I mean that the body dies, but the mind never dies. I got that backwards, but you know what I meant.
None of it actually really dies at all.
Right.
It was never alive anyway. We got that. It was never alive anyway. Rico, please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, family and friends. I send your love and life, my heart to yours. Forgive me, this is a little bit off the paragraph. I want to thank Rafi for making me laugh as he shares his experience with recent events, because I've been going to the doctor the last couple of times. I've been either late or I haven't been here. And the doctor sent me for some blood work, and then he called me back and wanted me to take an ultrasound. Then he called me back, wanted me to take a CT scan, and my mind just took off. I mean, just took off all the way, with people coming to my funeral and all this other stuff. And he didn't say anything about that. My mind just ran. And what Rafi just shared with me had me kind of relaxed. And I said, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. I just need to be okay with it. So I just want to thank you, Rafi, for sharing that. Sort of lighten my load a little bit.
All right, there we go. Thank you, Rico. Yeah, I mean, honestly, isn't that like every day you wake up and say, am I still alive? Am I am I still here in this world, in this dream? And having been close to death or thought I was going to die many times, and I know some of you others have also, and have some beautiful stories about it, and just knowing that it really is, this whole idea of death is a way of affirming that we are not the holy sons of God, and reaffirming that we are something that we're not. And once you recognize that, and I love this last line of this, it says, and no one asks if a benign creator could do this, could will this. And of course, I always asked when I was a kid, and got myself in a lot of trouble at the Catholic school, because I was always saying, what the heck is God? What is up with this dude? I'm a better person than he is. I would never do these things he did. But that's me questioning from the beginning, how can this be? Um, but uh, just recognizing that, death really has nothing to do with our reality at all, because we can never die. Ozzy has her hand up, and then Nicole after that, and I'm going to go check my biscuits again. I don't want to burn my biscuits. So Ozzy, go ahead, and then Nicole.
Thank you. I just wanted to share, it's interesting. I reflect back, and at a young age, I just started kind of being maybe a little more obsessed with the death, and not in fear of it and actually wanting it. And, I kind of was made to feel something about that wasn't true. Like, I was depressed, but I wasn't depressed. Something wasn't right, and I couldn't articulate it. And this is so helpful to find this course and just the path, how it unfolds, because it's like, how beautiful. Like, I don't have to be guilty for fantasizing about the death of this body and even wanting to do it. I mean, I can absolve all of that because somewhere in me knew the truth, and it was just unwiring itself to get there. And sorry about the bird. I'm past here.
Yeah, this is wow. I find this interesting how this follows on so perfectly from that last paragraph we read, because this is where really, like as I was saying, comes up for me is the whole content versus form, or the and I say versus because I started with this illusion of opposites, reality, okay, and the dream. What is the effect of the belief systems of those who are, which is where experiencing the dream is the effects, right? The effects, the forms, these things, the cyclical, the changing and unsure, the undependable and the unsteady. And we're reminded in that last thing, that last bit, to not be without them. And that reminds me that all we've heard about healing and such, and how we need not be bound by them. And those early lessons, the beginning lessons, this doesn't mean anything. My thoughts about this do not mean anything. So how being in the world but not of it, all right, is we're going, these effects, this dream, realizing it's not being bound by it. We are sure bit by bit, this interlocking chain of forgiveness, the atonement, coming to become unbound by our perceptions or the value that we've placed in this dream, which is just simply the effects of the sonship, the Holy Son of God's dreams, and becoming unbound by them. And as we become unbound for them, that we realize that it's just a dream. Yeah. And it's it can seem like it's in contrast reality and the dream. Yeah. Right. So it's a good reminder to me, because sometimes spiritual ego can get caught up when it sees the reality and the truth, and it realizes and sees the effects of its own thinking in that, and thinks that it should be without these effects. And then it can cause a lot of conflict within the self. Why are these effects showing up when, do Do you know what I mean? And that's why sometimes those on this spiritual path go through periods of depression where, you know, they think they've made this great progress and then suddenly go, well, why is this happening? You know what I mean? Because we're thinking we should be without them, you know. But we are one. We're not this me, Nicole. I'm one with all of my brothers who are one with me. Yeah. And so coming places, place of trust in myself, in the truth. Yeah. Regardless of what's going on in the dream. Yeah. Coming to become, you know, I need not be bound by that or value it or see it as evidence or see the effects of a shared dream as being witnesses to the truth of what can never be true. And so I love that it says this at the end, the cyclical, the changing and unsure, the undependable and the unsteady, waxing and waning in a certain way. Upon a certain path, all this is taken as the will of God, and no one else, if a benign creator could build this. So that's our choice. We have a choice, you know. We have a choice. Thank you. How to see it, whether to value it, whether to see ourselves as bound by it, whether to participate, and also to continue to forgiving. You know, forgiveness is so important. No demands. If we see our brother is caught up in such a belief system, right? He's still that Holy Son of God. He is still the Christ. He is still, regardless of effects. If we see him as bound, if we see our brother as bound, we're seeing ourselves as bound. And it's just a choice, and it's not real. I'll put my hand down.
Karen?
Yeah, thanks, Nicole, for bringing that up again about, you know, about the limitations. Do not despair them, because he tells us in another place that, you know, do not be disturbed by the shadows, because that is why you came. You know, he tells us this, and this is something that he's reminding us that this is why we came. We came here, you know, because we chose to be here. We chose to come here to learn the lessons we came to learn. And do not despair. You know, he tells us that these shadows are what is going to be for our greatest good. They're going to teach us the lessons we came to learn. You know, like my worst shadows that happened in my life were my greatest awakenings, my greatest finding out the truth of who I am, finding out that death is not real. You know, the worst case scenario when my husband committed suicide was, I thought, the end of the world. But I learned so much. He was my greatest teacher, you know, so it's always that. So I'm grateful for the shadows today. I'm grateful for the limitations today, because the limitations of, and especially the limitations of the body, are just teaching me that the unreality of the body, how the body is not the truth of who I am, and death is not real, you know, so just thank you for that.
Thank you for that, Karen. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share here?
What Karen just said triggered something in me that I thought that has been helping me right along, and now I was just refreshed. Is that when I'm looking through books and I see pictures of Lester, Yogananda, Jesus, the Buddha, all of the masters, one of the things that came out of me is what thou art, I am. What I am, thou art. So if I am one with all of them, and they are eternal, How could there be a life, birth, and death? Again, that's the illusion that, your mind is hanging on to desperately because that's your identity. I'm this person and this person's going to die. But once you've changed that identity to being one with those masters or anyone else, all of a sudden that false identity starts to weaken and collapse. And that sense of oneness gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And that puts a big crimp in the idea of you were born, you're going to live a while, and you're going to die. So that's that. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rafi. And beautiful, beautiful sharing. Glorian, please go ahead.
Something Nicole was sharing, it was just coming to me, what you see, you own, and, what does this represent for me? So this morning I was rushing to get dressed to listen to Sharon and Dove and Lori, and I had something on the radio and I was like listening, and an individual comes out, and I guess it was like an FBI person or what have you, and she states, no one is safe anywhere in this world, in this country, she said, no one's safe anywhere in this country. And I was like, oh my goodness, like that made me feel uncomfortable, like spirit, what does that mean? Like, why would somebody present this out there to everyone? But it came to me that stopping a minute and listening, it's showing you that the ego cannot hide and make itself safe. And so that's what I felt it was, it was just coming to me that that's what it was, because I was like taken back by that, and it's always showing us something. And that's really ultimately what it is, that the ego really cannot hide or try to make itself safe here. And that's what that's just exposing. Thanks.
That's a great turnaround. Really, honestly, that's a great turnaround, Glorian. When we look and say, oh, what is the purpose of this? What is this for? And once you do that and see it from a different direction, it all makes sense. Rafi, please go ahead.
Lester Levinson used to say, you're afraid you're going to die 24 hours a day. So I'm not surprised that woman that you heard, Gloria, said that, because that's in the subconscious of everybody's mind. You're always afraid. And then, but if you see that, then you can say, all right, let's take a look at that reality. In reality, I'm not this body, and afraid is a feeling, and I'm not a feeling. And you can use that to a very strong advantage by looking at the truth of that, and looking at the falsity of that and the truth of what is. And it's been extremely helpful for me.
Thank you for that, Rafi. It's real interesting to me too. A lot of my friends, all these years that COVID has been around, a lot of my friends just now got COVID. And are really having a difficult time of it. They never had it before, and it's shocking, kind of, that all of a sudden now all these people are getting it, and some of them are very, very sick from it. And like the fear of death is coming back up into people's mind. Not that it has ever been gone, like you said, Rafi. Every day we're always afraid of it, but when you're looking at something that suddenly you have it, and that it's a lot of people have died from it, it brings up a lot of fear. And I know, and me fear for my friends, because I've lost family members and and friends. So this is really a good timing to be looking at this again, because that fear is a signal that I need to see things differently. So beautiful sharing, everyone. Anybody else have anything on this paragraph? All right, well, let's take a look at paragraph 2. Who would like to read paragraph 2?
I'll read it.
Thank you, Myrna.
Okay. In this perception of the universe as God created it, it would be impossible to think of him as loving. For who has decreed that all things pass away, ending in dust, and disappointment and despair can be feared? He holds your little life in his hand by a thread, ready to break it off without regret or care, perhaps today, or if he waits, yet is the ending certain. Who loves such a God knows not of love, because he is denied that life is real. Death has become life's symbol. His world is now a battleground where contradiction reigns and opposites make endless war. Where there is death, is peace impossible. Yeah, you know what? I mean, there's so much going on in the world as we see it as the world. You know, and we have to really, if anything, recognize more than ever that that we're not of the world, we're in the world. And by being in the world, it is recognizing more than ever before that it's just our fear. Perhaps it's creating all of this. I mean, look at the TV, look at the news, look what's going on in the Middle East. Look at the threat that seems to be happening here. You just mentioned COVID. I mean, there's so much in the world today. It seems, as if you look at it from the eyes of the ego, it seems worse than ever. But yet now is the time to refrain from that fear and to get into the understanding of who we really are, and to recognize that it is a benign God that does care and does love us. That is a loving God. It's hard to really see it that way when we look at it through what the world seems to be going through right now. So now, I think more than ever, we have to really hang on to the understanding that we are God created, and that we are free of all the death that seems to be handed out just by looking at the news. If we do look at the news, or you mentioned COVID, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's all the same. You know, your little life is hanging on a thread, ready to break off without regret or care. A lot of people are feeling that way today. So, as I say, now more than ever, it's important to recognize that we are above that we are not that little nothing that we seem to relate to when we hold on to the ego's beliefs.
Thank you, Myrna. And yeah, it seems like if you see things in that way, that death is imminent, and every moment is, terrible things are happening, and you could just be at the bowling alley with your kids, and some guy could come in and just blast everybody. It's a pretty scary thing. And what is it that we get? The idea is that God let us down. God was not paying attention. God wasn't in the bowling alley, or God wasn't in the guy. God wasn't, we start thinking that God is missing, MIA here. And, that's where, the course is taking us to another place where we can turn it around and see that God is in everything, and that all these things are stories that we tell ourselves. We're children scaring ourselves in the dark. And so if we understand that we're just these are stories that we're telling ourselves, that we are limited, that we can be broken, that we're small and can be destroyed and no longer even exist, that's a pretty terrifying thing to a small child. So, letting go of that idea and recognizing that nothing can harm us, and that this body that we think we are is it is a fabrication, totally fabrication. Sharon, please go ahead, and then Nicole.
Okay, and I'm just, what I wanted to say about what you shared, Lynn, before is, we've had COVID. I got COVID on like probably around the 6th. My husband got it on the 6th, but it showed up for me that Monday, but I think I had it before. And what happened, for me, it went very peaceful. It was very easy, this COVID. It wasn't that bad because I took that antivirus, and it begins with a P. And I had what I was just one of the 10% they talk about that had a rebound COVID. And then I have sinus infection. Okay, but I still, so yeah, the ego's still like really, really annoyed that I'm still sick. However, my husband, who also got it, has been getting up with panic attacks. You see, and what we're looking at now together is like how we downloaded so much fear around COVID, right? That was just like, so I don't know, like his mind's making that the panic. And the doctor told him, when a panic attack happens, it's just the nervous system, right? Just reacting. So I just feel like, what Rafi said is true. I have always, not consciously, unconsciously been afraid of death because it's just in our DNA. And now I've been happier than I've ever been. And when I say happier, I had a good life, but it was a life of comedy and tragedy, like everybody's life. But when I look now, everything is just so much different for this mind that I want to stay. And of course, that's the ego, right? The ego wants to just say, well, now that everything's all right, you better just do this and that. None of that is even important because it's just what I feel like my mind's doing a lot is it's just attracted to guilt once again, right? It just wants, I think it's because I like being Sharon, but I really think it's just the attraction to guilt the more I'm listening to all of you. And I just want to say one thing, Nicole, I love when you share, but I can't hear you that well because again, I have a cold, so I'm not sure if it's me or if it's because I know you're on a cell phone. So I just want to bring that up because I love listening to everybody. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, it's your fault that you can't hear. I'm just kidding you. Nicole, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I've got a bit of roadworks in the background. I'm actually on my iPad, but it's early in the morning. I slept in, so, well, it's not that early, but anyway, yeah, I was just thinking about like in the not subscribing, right? I have this thing I talk about I need not subscribe, right, to belief systems, world beliefs. And yet I'm reminded again of that last section, and it's really helping me. It's important for me not to be without them. We're one, right? We're one. The sonship is experiencing the effects of, we're seeing the effects of a dream, a shared dream, right? Okay. And just because we're seeing those doesn't make it real. It doesn't make it true, right? I need not subscribe. And when I don't subscribe, sometimes I experience incredible miracles, right? I see it firsthand. I see firsthand the effect of what changing my mind has, all right? But, okay, some things are shared. It may not necessarily see a shift, but my mind is healed. And that's what it's about, because it's not real, this dream. COVID is not real. The war is not real, right? And this dream will change when enough of us, okay, realize it's not real. So that's why it's important that within the dream and while these effects are happening, all right, that we teach that it's not real. We teach it's not real because then a critical mass point will come, right? It is our goal to wake up the dreaming son, and remind him of the truth. And so these effects that keep happening at the moment, realizing they have no value, they do not mean anything, right? It's not real. It's not real. Okay. Because that dream will change. And we start to experience it in our personal lives first. We've all experienced that. You know, when we allow the Holy Spirit to be in charge, wow, we experience miracles abound, amazing things, you know, all the time. So that extension of that, where we're not seeing the change, which is in that shared dreaming, that's why we've got to keep teaching. We've got to keep teaching, keep reminding, teaching, holding, and not participating, and being forgiving to ourselves, because like as it says in that last part, we're going to fall into it, and we've got to make decisions sometimes based upon these things. You know, these things come up, these challenges come up, and it's all okay if we slip up. Yeah, it's not real anyway, is it? It's all okay. Anyway, this is a reminder to myself. Thank you.
Exactly. And it is all okay. It's all okay. And as Karen posted in the chat, we're not asked to believe the world is an illusion. We are asked to look at how much we resist it. And from Ken Wapnick, yeah, that's it. Beautiful. Does anyone else have any comments on paragraph 2? Karen, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. And what helps me is, is not believing the ego thought system is real. It's the ego thought system. It's not, because the world is a reflection of my thoughts. So it's not believing my thoughts, not believing those ego thoughts that seem so real, that want to make me believe in death, that want to make me believe in separation. So it's never about anything that's happening out there. It's always about, my thoughts about it. So thank you.
Yeah, that's it exactly. It always has to come back to my mind, my thoughts, my choice of what to see and what to believe. And we all have that. And obviously Jesus knows that, and he's given us this course, and he expects that we are going to be grown-ups and do it. And we're like, oh, but I'm just a little, I don't even know. But he's got confidence in us. He knows us. So that's otherwise he would not give us such challenging material. And he also knows, because he did it too. And that's what's so beautiful. He says, I did it, and I know you can do it too, because you're just like me. And what a beautiful gift that is. So let's read paragraph 3. Who would like to read paragraph 3?
I'll read 3. This is the perfect one for me.
Yay.
3. Death is the symbol of the fear of God. His love is blotted out in the idea, which holds it from awareness like a shield held up to obscure the sun. The grimness of the symbol is enough to show it cannot coexist with God. It holds an image of the Son of God, in which he is laid to rest in devastation's arms, where worms wait to greet him and to last a little while by his destruction. Yet the worms as well are doomed to be destroyed as certainly. And so do all things live because of death. Devouring is nature's law of life. God is insane, and fear alone is real. And I think that's crazy. God is insane? No, I don't think so. The first one made me laugh. Death is a symbol of fear of God, because I since I've been hanging out with you guys, I no longer fear God. I love God. I surrender to God. So it's not about that. But the thought did run through my mind real quickly. It didn't linger like it normally would. But between the CT scan and the ultrasound and blood work and all this other stuff, all of a sudden, and nobody saying anything, my mind took off on me. Rafi cooled that down. You know, I don't think his love was ever blotted out in the idea of what I thought was going on, because I don't know what's going on yet. You know, it's also an awareness like a shield. So I guess I was obscuring the sun. Goodness of the semblance enough to show that it cannot coexist with God. No, I don't know about this next sentence. The grimace of the symbol is enough to show it cannot coexist with God. So I'm going to have to listen to one of you guys from here to far. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rico. Yeah, I just think he's just pointing out that, you know, this grim idea of death can't coexist with a God who loves you. And isn't that always the question? That's always the question I ask. You know, if God loved me, why'd he do this to me? And, you know, that's the proof that he didn't do it. Because if God loved me, he would never do anything to harm me. So, and I love this whole little story that he has about the worms because it's true. You know, the worms will eat us, but the worms will die and something else will eat them. And you know, that's what this is, a worm eat man world. We're just, everything is just here to be eaten by something else. And I posted something one time on my Facebook, a little thing that I made up with a robin pulling a worm out of the ground, and it said, you know, to the worm it's devastation, but to the robin it's breakfast. So we don't know any of this. Anyway, Rafi, please go ahead.
I didn't have my hand up.
Oh, sorry, Rafi. It's Ozzy has her hand up. I'm not seeing too good tonight. Ozzy, please go ahead.
Thank you. I was just, I had just cleaned out some files from notes I had from 2019. So that was close to my ACIM start path. And I had taken a program with the Teachers of God and wrote a personal renunciation on November 16th, 2019, and I'd love to share it. I renounce the secret vow I made to never approach the darkest veil of all, the fear of God. I renounce this belief. I renounce sadness, anger, conflict, annoyance, judgment, sickness, moodiness, extra 40 pounds on this body, criticisms, defensiveness, doubt, worry, hate, greed. And I renounce it all. I renounce all these forms of death now. There is no death. God made it not. I look past death in any form and see only life beyond. And so it is. I just thought that was so awesome. Like 2019, like almost what is it, for 3 years, November, talking about death. Here we are. And I renounced it then. But I just want to reiterate these words and realize that that desire is different now than it was then. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sweetheart. And thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that, you know, Teachers of God, Lisa Natoli, you know, they really have some great programs. And I'm so grateful that you got in on that. Was that the 40-day program that you did?
That was, I actually did Living in Purpose. Like that was the first time I paid for something of that amount on like in the US dollar to Canadian. It was a whole lesson just in that. The money of it, you know, but it was a year-long course, and I was committed to it. I got a lot out of it. So
that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ozzy. That's wonderful. And you're still getting something out of it now. And actually, if it was in 2019, isn't that like 4 years almost 4 years that you've been doing it. So, wow, have you come a long way? Holy manoli. Oh my goodness. I wish I had when I was four years into the course. Anyway, Karen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Audrey. I loved the part where you said that God does not know about death. And that's what I love about this course. He's reminding us that God does not know about death. God does not know about separation. God does not forgive because he never condemned. As we always say, that the secret of salvation is we are doing this to ourselves. And I love what everyone shared. And I was listening to what Rico shared. I don't know what tests you're getting done. I think you said a CAT scan and some other things, but I'm getting some tests done too now. I just had like a full body 3D x-ray of my whole entire, from my neck all the way down to my feet. And I have a lot of degeneration and really severe scoliosis and everything. And I thought about it. I'm really not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of suffering, the body suffering and going through pain. And, that's my fear. It's not the dying, because dying to me, it's peaceful. Dying to me isn't scary. It's the living in a suffering, sick body that scares me, so that's my work here, is to look at that and to know that I can still always choose the Holy Spirit, and always ask to see this differently, and that I could see peace instead of this. So, but it is a fear, and it's something that I have to look at. So you reminded me of that when you shared about that. So it's really not the death that I'm afraid of. It's living here in a sick body. So thank you.
That's beautiful. And yeah, I mean, don't we all have that experience of fear when, and as people say, we're getting older, so things are going to start falling apart. Things are going, and, you kind of expect it. But, there's two people I think about. I always think about Stephen Hawking, who, if you know Stephen Hawking, he was a man who was completely incapable of using his body in any way at all, other than I think he could blink his eyes and maybe blow into a tube or something to make his wheelchair go. I'm not sure what all he actually could do, but his mind still, he was still in that amazing mind, even when the body itself was, broken to the point where it didn't work well anymore. And then of course my friend Teddy Poppy, or our friend Teddy Poppy, who had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and he went through, I mean, just tremendous shifts, and he was so happy, and that's what's so beautiful. He was just so joyful. And he was even on some of our earlier, a few years ago, we did the deep dive into the Manual for Teachers, and he and Vicky were in that class. And, you could see him there with, he lost a ton. He was a very heavy, large man, and he lost a lot of weight, and he was just, kind of waning away in front of our eyes. Yet he was just as joyful as could be. And A Course of Miracles is, what kept him in that space. So, don't imagine that, if your body starts deteriorating, that means that you're going to suffer. It may mean that you learn something new about what you are and what your capabilities are. Rafi, please go ahead.
Yeah, it just reminded me, thank you, Karen, about how the ego feeds on suffering. And then and because it's duality, it feeds on suffering and then it hates it at the same time. So there's all that conflict going on. And the other thing, because of the duality of ego, there's always the fear of death. And then, like Lester said, then there's the want to die to escape from all of that. And so it's constant, it's like you got your head between two things and it's banging on it at the same time. And if you can't step back and look at it from a discriminating point of view and go, oh, I see what it's doing, then you get caught up in it, and the suffering becomes a thing, and wanting to die to get away from it becomes a thing, and all of these things, and there are no things. So thank you, Karen, for reminding me that I needed that refresher.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rafi. Nicole, please go ahead.
Um, in response to that, the next paragraph is like going boom, boom, boom. Now, can I read it, please? The curious belief that there is part of dying things that may go on apart from what will die does not proclaim a loving God, nor re-establish any grounds for trust. If death is real for anything, such as the body, there is no life. Death denies life, but if there is reality in life, death is denied. No compromise in this is possible. There is either a God of fear or one of love. The world attempts 1,000 compromises and will attempt 1,000 more. Not one can be acceptable to God's teachers because not one could be acceptable to God. He did not make death because he did not make fear. Both are equally meaningless to him. So that compromise, that's what I believed for so long. I was like, I believed a part of me would go on. And this was a body that would die or fall away and all that. And that temptation is there because that was the grounds by which I entered into this course. I already believed that, right? There was a part of me that will go on, right? But it's not real. It's not real. There is no body that dies. There is no body that catches a disease. It's not a body. It's all light. It's all the light of God. We're experiencing effects. We're in a virtuoso dream. We're we are the Holy Son of God who's dreaming these things and experiencing the effects of it. And our dream is just the effects. And yet content versus form is the only way out of this. It is what is real is real. What is always. You know what I'm saying? That cup. We're just caught up in a dream, which is our thoughts about what is holy, what is whole, what is one, what is whole, what is one. We're in heaven. It's, and like that's why so many teachers of God, quantum physics really helps them to bridge that illusion. It helps them to see everything as energy, to see that matter is that it's all light. It's all light. Right? Nothing dies. All that dies is our thoughts about what it is. Right? So nothing dies. It's just we think that this is a separate thing, it's separate and it's this, and we've got all these attributes for it and whatever else. Right? But what God created does not die. Because he didn't create a form, he didn't create a body, because it's not a body. This isn't a body. Right? And yet, right, that reminded again of the last part. All right. Okay. It's not only Nicole dreaming here. All right. I'm not on the Truman Show in some kind of weird dream where it's all just Nicole as a separate being. Right. We're one. We're one. So it is a shared dream. And yet, the more and more that I unbind myself through the practice of forgiveness and the atonement, the more and more I come to experience reality in a new way. Right? It doesn't mean that suddenly it's all, like suddenly I'm in control and I'm doing it. It's not like The Secret here, right? But we do experience it. That's another reason why a lot of teachers of God also, aside from quantum physics, also explore things such as like the idea of the power of attraction or these kind of things, right? Yeah. Because we do start to experience this. We start to see the effects that we have on our own dream, the dream. And we start to experience that, and we start to see that we're doing these things ourselves. And yet, right, we are one. So there's got to be an element of trust and faith there in this, because sometimes we will experience immediate effects, right? And also, if we get caught up in the power of attraction and the secret and stuff, that's also experimenting with false healing, isn't it? Because what needs to be healed is our mind, and seeing all these things as separate, and seeing, our thoughts about what if and the effects. They're effects. It's just effects. It's effects of both our own dreaming and a shared dream. Yeah, both. Anyway,
Yeah,
thank
it's a
you.
story, and I'm interested in this paragraph, and I think we're probably because our time will be up in a few minutes, but I'm real interested because I think Jesus is telling us. I mean, we think, I think I probably told you guys that my ex-partner, my son's father, passed away last week. And they had his memorial service today, and I attended that right before I came to the thing with Dove. And anyway, very, very beautiful. And, I was really sad, and, have been, because, I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe because I, think about regrets or something about, whatever. And of course, because my son is really sad, is he's pretty distraught about his dad being dead. And there's a lot of talk about I'll see him again, or he's gone on to another place, or he's had, that he's somewhere else experiencing something now. And the fact is, he never existed. There was never a person called Dale. And it was a person that was in my mind, that's still in my mind, that's never left and never been anywhere else. And I mean, these are the enigmas of this course, because if you believe that there isn't an individual that is going to go to heaven and walk the pearly streets, or whatever it is that people think is going to happen, or go on to the next life, which we talk about that a lot, that reincarnating or going into another personality or person, or I think we as course students get a lot of confusion, like you were talking about the secret, we're talking about the law of attraction. We as course students get really confused about what's real. And we think there's somewhere in the world room for us to have an individual person and personality that will go on, and that I'll see you again, uh, or that I'm gone to somewhere else, or that he's somewhere waiting for me. He's not. That's what that's what Jesus, I think, is telling us here. You can't. There isn't a part of me that lives uh, if the body dies. That is a reflection of the body in some way. That somehow or the other, the body dies and I go on. There's no I to go on. I think that is something that really is very confusing, and I don't even, I'm saying these things, but I don't know. Who knows? And some of the people say, well, whoever died and came back. Well, Jesus did. And he came back and walked around, and he seemed to be a person. So, but he was also a person who, was making a body for himself at every moment consciously, in order to be able to have the limitations that he's talking about earlier in the upper paragraph, the limitations of being a body. so that he could communicate with us. And so, that's all that happens. I think, we just go into a lower vibration maybe. And this body that we are living in is a very low vibration being compared to the reality of what we are. So, I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I'm just throwing out thoughts. And Nicole has her hand up. Hopefully she's got something cohesive to say.
Okay. I find that a really curious belief. What you were just sharing. Dale. All right, let's talk about Dale. Okay. There's Dale, the story and the thoughts about, right? The thoughts about, all right. Okay. Nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Okay. Dale is not Dale. He is a wave of an ocean, a wave of an ocean, a spark, a sunbeam to the sun. All right, okay. And what is real in Dave, and that's which you connected with, the Holy Son of God, Christ, the Holy Son of God, a son of God, a brother. Okay. He's not gone anywhere. He's not gone anywhere. Do you really believe that you are just the form? This is why in the text, Jesus speaks of soul, okay? Soul is the spark, is the wave, right? And why when we experience the fear of redemption, right? The fear of redemption is the fear that we will no longer exist, right? Once our illusions about ourselves are gone, that we will no longer exist. I experienced my revelation and my oneness with God and experienced God directly when I overcame this fear, and I was prepared to be gobbled up by the oneness. I was prepared to no longer exist. My desire for union with God and to experience my oneness with God far exceeded my desire to maintain a dream of a separate self. I experienced that oneness with God, and here I am, right? And here too is Dale. And we went back 2 sections ago about those teachers of God who have overcome, right? And they're still here. They're still here. So Dale, love, he's still here. And you and him will reunite, darling, because what God created, all right, right, what is real is real forever. I love you. Mwah.
And thank you, Nicole. All right, you guys, thank you. That's the end of our time. We'll get back on this next week. We're at paragraph 4, and we might want to start out there and move on. But thanks you all so very much. I'm so grateful for it. Let me stop the share so we can all see each other. Put my video back on, and there we go. And thank you all so much for joining us here tonight. And Ozzy, I love that. Is that a hat? I love it. It's cute.
Yeah, I got a hat on. It's snowing.
Oh, yeah.
Snowing.
Cold front coming in is what I hear. So
That's
right,
Canada, right? Canada.
Yeah.
yeah. That means it's not far. All right.
What's the temperature there, Audrey?
Honey, what's the temperature?
Just curious.
It's going to be in Celsius.
-5 Celsius.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
just 5 below 0.
Wow.
Not that cold. It's not that cold, but it's windy. So it's a little, I have to
then it
wear my
gets cold.
winter coat and everything. Like I'm all ready because I have the body experiences this rheumatoid arthritis, and it's
It
like
is.
it's
Wow,
wonderful.
That's amazing. It's here in Australia this morning. It's a bit fresh and a bit nippy, and I had my big woolly dressing gown on earlier. Now I'm in a singlet.
Mm.
It's what it's 20 degrees Celsius in
20 degrees
Fahrenheit. I don't know. It's like
It's warm.
20 degrees Celsius is nice.
20
All right, you
degrees
guys.
Celsius.
Good night. Thank
I'm
you
gonna-
all.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Karen.
I'm
Thank you.
Lynn,
gonna
I
just
love
quickly
you.
look
Lynn,
this
I
up.
love you. Thank you,
I'm
Lynn.
not gonna be emailing you for tonight.
Oh, don't worry about it
Thanks.
because I've had a busy day.
Oh,
So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go
68.
eat dinner.
Yeah, I know, and
68
my
degrees here.
condolences, Lynn, to you.
Oh, thank you.
I just,
Yeah.
you're so brave and just being here and coming in. I just admire that so much.
Aw.
Thank you.
We appreciate
thank you,
Lynn. You didn't
sweetheart.
burn the
I
biscuits.
love you
did you?
guys.
No, the
Love you.
biscuits.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Don't
All
burn
right,
the
Bye.
biscuits.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
all.
Night,
Thank
Dove.
you. Dove was awesome.
He was
Today.
awesome today. Yes.
My God, he channeled he channeled Ken, he channeled like Rob, Bob, Dr. Bob. I was just like, oh, he's like, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom. I'm like, wow, just amazing.
Yeah. We have some mighty
Wow.
companions in this group. I'm telling you
Mhm.
what. And meeting up with those folks was so lovely. So
That was
yeah,
beautiful.
I
Yeah,
love it.
thank
All
you.
right, you guys. Good night, all. Love you all. Stay